with the unbelievable performance by a man by the name of Torrey Smith last night. Torrey Smith's younger brother died in a motorcycle accident yesterday morning, a little after midnight, I think it was. He found out early in the morning, left Baltimore, went to his family down in Virginia, then left Virginia, made it back up to Baltimore for the game, got dressed, and played himself one hell of a game. 6 catches, 127 yards, 2 touchdowns. Helped lead the Baltimore Ravens to a big victory yesterday against the New England Patriots. And when I say big, I am not kidding. One of the two teams, quote-unquote powerhouses in the AFC, had to go 1-2. And the Ravens avoided being that team that went 1-2. I was emotionally just caught up by this game yesterday for this kid, Torrey Smith. Second-year player. He was a rookie last year. He's their deep ball threat. You got Uncle Anquan on the working the inside of the field for them, and Mr. Pitta. But I was just so emotionally wrapped up by watching this kid play in such an emotional big game. This was the rematch of the AFC Championship from last year, and it was just a game that meant so much to each team in more than just one way. Obviously, Baltimore and New England both trying to avoid going 1-2, but this was, a lot of people, if anybody doubted a game last year, it was the AFC Championship game between Baltimore and New England. A lot of people think New England got lucky with that game. But either which way, Baltimore comes out. They're trailing, what was it, 13-0, most points ever given up at home in the first quarter by Baltimore with John Harbaugh. I get the Harbaughs confused. Which Harbaugh am I talking about? Baltimore's John Harbaugh. All right, thank you. Sorry. I got confused on that one. John Harbaugh. Most points ever given up by John Harbaugh, coach Ravens team in the first quarter. The big thing I took out of the game was obviously the performance by Torrey Smith. Obviously, the other storyline coming out of it is Belichick grabbing the ref. But that's going to be a fine, and I think that's really the end of that story when it really comes down to it. But I don't know if you have any reactions from this game, what you were feeling and what you thought.
It was a good game by Torrey Smith. Again, it's one of these situations for me like Steve Sable was last week. I'm just not going to say anything bad, so I'm just going to leave it as he has a good game. Congrats to him. Sorry for the family. The Belichick thing, I think it could be a little bit bigger deal than what you were talking about, especially because the league just sent out that league-wide thing saying don't give the refs a hard time, coaches, and players stay off their back, and then all of a sudden Belichick's out there screaming at them, grabbing them by the arm, and I think it could be a little bit bigger than just a fine. I don't know, though. Reaction from the game, good game by both teams. I think it could have been a little better defensive-wise, but good game to watch all around. And it was really this matchup is a coin flip. It really is. If they played again in the playoffs, I don't know that I can 100% say I would take the Ravens or have my heart into the Ravens because either one of these teams could have won that game last night.
Oh, yeah. You got to figure New England comes up with a defensive stop. They hold on and win the game. It was a great game as you come to expect when these two teams play each other. And I think on top of that, what it was New England pretty much had everything stacked up against them when it came down to the realm of non-actual football things. The emotional impact on a team, especially a team like Baltimore, where you have a Ray Lewis who's such an emotional and passionate leader, that this team, I don't want to keep using the word emotional, but seriously, how emotional they were going into this game. What it meant to them, not only because of the Torrey Smith thing, but because of last year's AFC Championship game, because of the fact that when it really comes down to it, they've never beaten Tom Brady in the regular season. And it's one of those situations where everything was piled for them to emotionally have the upper hand when it comes down to it. And I apologize for beating the crap out of that word, but that just seems like the proper word for what last night's game was, in my opinion. It was just an emotionally owned game. And I have to say that I'm not shocked that Baltimore won the game, but I do completely agree that this game could have went New England's way. Like we said, all New England needs to do is make a stop in the fourth quarter, and they win the game. Or they need to get a couple first downs when they had the ball with 4 minutes left, and they win the game. Baltimore's defense steps up, and then all of a sudden their offense gets led down the field by, according to his own words, the best quarterback in the league, Joe Flacco, down for the game-winning score. It was a great game, and I completely agree. I think if they played each other again next week, you can end up with a completely different result. You can see Baltimore get ahead 13 points and then still lose the game. You really could. And I think that's pretty much the bottom line of when you have two really great teams play each other in the NFL, that's how it's supposed to be. It shouldn't be one team dominates the other team. That's why they're two great teams, because these two teams can play each other. If think basketball, 7-game series, probably go 7 games. You know what I mean? Obviously, you're not going to see two NFL teams play each other 7 times in a season, but if they played a 7-game series like a basketball or a hockey or something like that, I could see it going 7. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
No, wouldn't surprise me.